In Northern California from at least the late 60s to the early 70s, fear was spread all over the place from the serial killer known as the Zodiac Killer. He was one of the biggest serial killers in the American history. He killed 5 people and he claimed that he killed 37 persons. His first blood was in December 20, 1968. Around 11 p.m., 16 years old Betty Lou Jensen and 17 years old David Faraday were shot and killed in the most horrible way. They were sitting in a parked car in Lake Herman Road, which was well known as the Lover's Lane. Teenagers would just come to this place to have a private moment. David and Betty were attending a Christmas concert at the Hogan High School. About 3 blocks from Jensen's home, the couples instead visited a friend before stopping at a local restaurant and then driving to their date spot. By the time the police arrived at the lake, Betty was already dead. Her body was 30 feet away from the car. But David was still alive, but he died on his way to the hospital. The police assumed whoever killed the couples knew them or held a grudge against them. Little did they know it was all the beginning of the journey of the Zodiac Killer. In the 4th of July of 1969, around 11 p.m. in Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, the Zodiac parked behind the victim's car in a parking lot and he left the vehicle carrying a flashlight and his gun and shot 22 years old Darlene Ferrin and 18 years old Michael Magoo, and he walked away, but he was still hearing Darlene's moans and screams for help. He came back and shot the couples again. Both victims were still alive when found by the police, but only Michael survived. And Michael was able to describe the Zodiac, and he described him as about 5 feet 8, young, white male between 26 and 13 years old. Light brown curly hair, 200 pounds or larger, stocky, and had a large face. After one day, someone called the police and claimed to be the shooter. He also claimed that he killed the other couples at the Lake Herman Road. On the 1st of August, 3 letters prepared by the killer were received at 3 newspapers, Vallejo Times-Herald and the San Francisco Chronicle and the San Francisco Examiner. The 3 letters had the same identical handwriting, claiming to be the killer. The letters had very specific details about the murders, and the 3 letters had the same mark on them, a circle with a cross in it. And the letters had a very strange gibberish words and codes, that they had to be printed on the newspapers, and also claimed the codes can reveal his identity. After 3 days, the newspaper received another letter, and it started with, "This is the Zodiac speaking." This is the first time the Zodiac gave a name to himself. After 4 days, a couple from Salinas, California cracked the codes and it says, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something is the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die I will be reborn in paradise, and all that I have killed will become my slave. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow and stop my collection of the slaves for my afterlife." On September 27 of 1969, 2 college students, Brian and Cecilia Shepard, were picnicking at Lake Berryessa. White men, about 5 feet 11, were hiding behind a tree and creeping out on the couples. After a couple of seconds, the man came out from behind the tree, and he was wearing an executioner hood on his head and had a Zodiac symbol on his chest. He had a gun and a knife and a rope, and he approached the couples with his gun, forcing them to get on their knees, and he tied them up with his rope and stabbed them multiple times. Cecilia died at the hospital. Brian survived, and he also described the killer as about 5'9" to 6 feet, heavy set, 225 to 250 pounds, dark brown hair that he saw from his eye hole in the mask. The Zodiac left a message on Brian's car with the Zodiac symbol on it. It had the dates of the 3 killings and the word "by knife." On October 11 of 1969, in San Francisco, just before 10 p.m., a cab driver with the name of Paul Stein was shot in the head by a passenger. A teenage girl was crossing the street and she heard the shots. Even her 2 friends at her home heard it. The girl saw a man wiping the car for fingerprints, and she watched him walk away. When she informed the police, she also described him as a white man between 25 to 30 years old, about 5'9" to 5'8", stocky, with a reddish-brown crew cut, and had a very rimmed glasses. But a police dispatcher made a mistake by incorrectly identifying the killer to be an African-American male, even though the witness said he was white. And this mistake led the case to a disaster, because when the police was searching for an African-American guy around the blocks, they ran by a guy, as they described him later, as a white male, about 5'10", 170 pounds, about 14 years old, wearing glasses, and had a reddish hair and a crew cut. The Zodiac commented on this mistake in a later letter, mocking the police. A facial composite sketch would be drawn later on based on the 2 descriptions that they got, and they made a wanted poster out of them. Bloody fingerprints was discovered in the cab. Claimed in the letter that he planted the fingerprints to throw the cops off his trail. 2 days later, the San Francisco Chronicle got another letter that claims responsibility for the cab murder, and the letter had the perfect matching details. And the letter also included a message saying, "School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." He also included a diagram of bombs that he could use on buses. Later on, the police created a Zodiac task force so that multiple police departments could share any information about the Zodiac. On April 20 of 1970, another letter was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle, and it included a cipher with the sentence, "My name is blank." If anyone could decipher this code, it could reveal the Zodiac's identity. However, the Zodiac stopped sending letters in 1971, and he came back on 1974 to send his last letter, and he claimed that he had killed 37 people. Skipping forward in time, 2002, the San Francisco Police Department was able to extract a good genetic profile from an old letter from the Zodiac. They extracted the sample from his saliva on the stamp. This could eliminate potential suspects. However, who is the Zodiac suspect all these years? The first theory was from Gary Stewart. He believed that his father, Earl Van Best Jr., was the Zodiac. Gary published a book called The Most Dangerous Animal of All, and surprisingly, his father looked very similar to the Zodiac sketches from the Paul Stein murder, and his name also matched the number of the codes from the Zodiac killer. Gary says the handwriting expert is very certain that his dad's handwriting on his marriage license matches the handwriting from the Zodiac's letter, according to an administrator at the church where the marriage certificate came from. The handwriting was the priest's handwriting, not his father's. Gary also tried to test his father's DNA against the recovery of DNA from 2002, but investigators didn't comply to make a theoretical test, and Gary accused the police for covering up. The second suspect/theory is from Robert Graysmith, who believed that Arthur Lee Allen is the Zodiac. And Robert was a cartoonist at the San Francisco Chronicle. He was very obsessed with finding out who's the Zodiac. After a lot of time, Robert researching and investigating on his own, he wrote 2 books with the title Zodiac and The Zodiac Unmasked. In these 2 books, he implicated that Allen was the Zodiac. And here's why Robert was this obsessed with this man. At the day of the Zodiac's 3rd attack at Lake Berryessa, Allen told his family he was going to scuba diving in the lake. Later that evening, he would come home covered in blood, and he had a bloody knife in his car. And the Zodiac that day only killed Cecilia Shepard. And 2 years later, 1971, one of Allen's friends, Don, claimed that Allen called himself the Zodiac before the Zodiac even announced his name. And Don also said Allen told him that he was planning to hunt people with his gun and a flashlight tied to it. With this information, the police interviewed Allen the second time, and Allen said his favorite book was The Most Dangerous Game, a a book about a man who hunted the humans. And this book was referenced in the first Zodiac letter, and Alan was also wearing the Zodiac brand's watch, the Zodiac symbol. Police searched Alan's trailer, and they found small dissected animals in the freezer, bloody knives, and sexual devices. They didn't find any direct links or evidence to the case. In 1974, Alan was convicted of child molestation and he spent 3 years in jail. During this time, coincidentally, no letters were received from the Zodiac. In 1987, an inmate from the San Jose jail named Ralph Spinelli told the police that Alan admitted to him that he murdered Paul Stein. And in August 1991, a detective from Vallejo with the name George Bowert interviews Michael Magoo, and when Michael was shown a lineup of photographs, he picked out the man who shot him, and it was Alan. The police searched Alan's trailer home again. They found formulas for bombs and constructed bombs, and tapes about the Zodiac killer. And when they interviewed Alan again, he didn't say a word since he has the right to plead the fifth. After 1 year in August, Alan was found dead at his home from a heart attack. However, Alan's DNA was compared against the saliva DNA, but it was also believed that Alan had a habit for letting people lick his stamps for him. Weird, right? But it can also be a trick that he played to lead any suspicions away. And Alan's handwriting never matched the Zodiac's. And he also didn't look like the sketch from the cab driver's murder. But Alan was the #1 suspect in all the Zodiac's case. The third and final theory is from a retired police officer called Harvey Hinds, who believed that a man with the name of Lawrence Kay, aka Kane, was the Zodiac killer. Kane had a car accident in 1962 and he was brain damaged, and his behavior changed since then. One psychologist claimed that Kane is losing the ability to control self-gratification, and the name Kane can fit perfectly in the My Name's letter from the Zodiac. And that letter had a cipher with 3 circles with an 8 inside of them. 3 times 8 is 24, and Kane was born in the year 1924. Darlene Ferrin, from the second attack from the Zodiac, had a sister that she claimed that Kane was stalking and harassing Darlene weeks before Darlene's murder. In the cab driver murder in 1969, the suspect who was described by the police was a man looking about 35 to 45 years old, and Kane was 45 in 1969. One of the officers who was at the murder that day claimed that Kane was the most similar person to the killer that he saw. Kane also lived about 7 or 6 minutes on foot from where the murder took place. Very surprisingly, Kane was always the closest to the attacks. In 1970, Kane has moved to South Lake Tahoe, and that year a possible Zodiac victim named Donna Lass was missing in South Lake Tahoe, and Donna also worked at the same hotel as Kane. On March 27 of the same year, a mother named Kathleen Jones and her baby was picked by the Zodiac's car as she was hitchhiking, and when she entered the vehicle, the Zodiac told Kathleen that he was going to kill her and throw her baby out. Kathleen jumps out of fear from the car with her baby in her hands and ran to a nearby farm. And later on, the Zodiac mentioned Kathleen in one of his letters. So now I have a little list, starting with that woman and her baby that I gave a rather interesting ride. And when Kathleen reported that she was the woman from the letter, the police showed her a lineup of photographs, and Kathleen was able to remember the man who tried to kill her, and it was Kane. But in all of this, Kane's DNA didn't match the DNA recovery from the stamps. His fingerprints didn't match the bloody fingerprints on the cab, and Kane's handwriting also didn't match. And when they compared Kane to the sketches, they didn't look similar. Anyhow, till this day no letters or signs from the Zodiac was sent. And from then we have some final theories. The Zodiac could have died a long time ago, and his secrets died with him. The Zodiac could have been a cult, not only one person, since there was too much evidence to link a lot of suspects together. And it was also mentioned in a lot of TV shows and books, and one of them is American Horror Story. The Zodiac was responsible for the first 3 attacks, but he had a copycat doing his work for him afterwards, since the Zodiac was very inspiring to a lot of sick minds. Well, until this day, the Zodiac remains a mystery. Maybe later on in the future, some secrets could be revealed. Thank you for watching, and I hope you liked my first video. I spent a lot of time working on this, and I would appreciate it if you guys liked the video. And if you dislike it, also feel free to dislike it. And I'm really sorry about my accent. Since English is my second language, I'm trying very hard to improve. And I would be covering up more unsolved mysteries in the future, and very strange cases. But if you want to see more, please subscribe. And see you next time.